Welcome everyone. Today we are going to discuss very important topic called aggregate production planning or simply aggregate planning. In the domain of supply chain, the aggregate planning, this term is more preferred. Okay. This is a very important topic, but in spite of that, a lot of students, they do not have clear-cut understanding on aggregate production planning. That's why I would like to request all the students to go through this video so that the idea becomes clear. I will try to make you understand in a very lucid way. So you have already studied aggregate production planning in the course of production and operations management. But in the domain of supply chain, it is a lot of similarities are there, but there are also some dissimilarities. Whereas in the domain of production and operations management, you plan the aggregate production planning mostly depending upon it is done by only by the manufacturers. In the domain of supply chain, there are also the various stakeholders in the supply chain, they participated, and it is a collaborative effort to do the forecasting and also the aggregate planning. And now, before starting the course, starting the topic of aggregate planning and technical details, just think about a very simple case. Okay, think about very simple case. Uh, we all know, suppose you think it like in a very casual way. Suppose you would like to organize a food party, okay, where you have invited a lot of persons, a lot of people, they will come and they will eat, and you need to arrange the food for them. You need to cook some foods, you need to hire some workforce, you will be cooking some foods, you will be procuring some items, okay, and everybody will eat. So in this type of scenario, primarily you need to do two tasks you need to perform. The first task is you need to anticipate that how many people may come, because all the people may not come. Suppose you have invited hundreds of people. Now all the people, they may not come. Okay, so you will have to anticipate that how many people may come, which is kind of forecasting actually. Okay, usually in this particular case, we do not use any kind of forecasting method or forecasting technique, that we do not use, but that is also a kind of forecasting, but non-technical or non-mathematical. Okay, this is the first task. Now think about the second task that we need to perform. The second task is we need to uh, in the second case, we need to arrange the food items, different food items, and the workforce, all the equipments, and the procuring. We need to procure some items in such a way so that we can minimize our total cost while meeting all the constraints. Why I am saying about while meeting all the constraints and also your demand. Okay. Now, the case of demand, you know, but why I am telling you all the constraint part? Why I am telling you about all the constraints? Because think about a scenario where uh, you have plenty of money. Think about a scenario where whenever you procure, instantly it is delivered. Or suppose there is no uh, workforce, you can hire as much as possible. Okay. Or suppose whenever the workforce cook, instantly the food is delivered. There is no lead time. So if this be the case, then in this kind of world, there is no need of aggregate planning. But in practice, always you will have some constraints. Okay. And also you will not be willing to pay too much money for that. Okay. So that's why you need to uh, formulate a mathematical model, or you need to uh, select optimum value of the decision variables. Here in this case, the decision variables are like how many workforce you require, what are the items to be procured, this kind of or how much items you will procure. So this kind of thing, or this kind of you know, the decision variables are there. Okay. Now if you think about the constraints, suppose for example one particular person that you have hired for cooking, he or she cannot work all the day. He or she might work for 4 hours or 5 hours. So these kind of constraints are there also. Okay, if you hire 5 workers, then as a result of that, ultimately 5 into, suppose maximum work limit is 4 hours, so maximum 20 hours working hours you will be getting. Okay, so there are a lot of constraints. Okay, there is a lot of constraints. Practically, when we use this kind of, when we solve this type of problem, so in case of a food part, we do not make any mathematical formulation, and we do not solve the problem mathematically. Okay, we, from our previous experience, we uh, choose the values of our decision variables. But in case of aggregate production planning, it is not done from experience or from arbitrarily. It is not done. We need to follow a mathematical model, and as per the mathematical model, we need to solve the things. Okay. Now the question comes that why the optimum value is required. Okay, what will happen if we do not consider the optimum value? Suppose your workforce required, that is, suppose 5 workers is required, 5 workers are required. Okay, so suppose if you think that I will minimize the total cost, okay, so it is better that instead of 5 workers I will hire 4 workers. Okay, which is not an optimum value. So what will happen as a result of that, the cost for some associated to some other decision variables, that may increase. For example, that will increase, in fact. For example, suppose you need to procure or items, you need to order ready-made food products or items more, which will actually increase the total cost. Okay. Or if you think in this way, that I have for example 5 workers, so I hire, my optimum value is 5 workers, and I hire suppose 6 workers. If I hire 6 workers, then I will be able to produce more amount of food in my room or in my catering service. Then what will happen? Then what will happen that you won't be able to, in this case, you will be expecting that you will, suppose it may happen that you will be expecting that you need to order less amount of food, but ultimately you will have to order more amount of, you will not be able to reduce the order as much as you have thought. Okay, and ultimately what will happen, suppose some other decision variable like unit cost to make rasgulla or sweets, it may increase. Okay, because typically the sweet items, if you purchase or if you outsource, then what happens, their unit cost is less. But when, if you produce it in your in-house, then obviously the unit cost goes high in case of these items. Okay, so that will ultimately your that will lead to increase the total cost. Okay, so these kinds of things may happen. So that's why we need only the optimum value. Okay, not of the decision variables, not greater than that or not less than that. Okay, now take a look at that how what are the steps to perform the aggregate planning. There are basically 10 steps. So we will look at these 10 steps with a particular example. Okay. First, let's take a look at the example. Okay. This is the case study of Red Tomato Tools. Red Tomato Tools, small manufacturer of gardening equipment with manufacturing facilities in Mexico. Red Tomato's products are sold through retailers in the US. Its operations consists of the assembly of purchased parts into a multi-purpose gardening tool. The company makes 6 product families at its manufacturing plant. Because of the limited equipment and space required for its assembly operations, Red Tomato's capacity is determined mainly by the size of its workforce. The demand for the gardening tools from consumers is highly seasonal, peaking in the spring as people plant their gardens. The options they have for handling the seasonality are adding workers during the peak season, subcontracting out some of the work, building up inventory during the slow months, or building up a backlog of orders that will be delivered late to customers. Okay, so the first thing in this case, the aggregate, in case of aggregate planning, that fix the timelines. Okay, planning horizon and duration within planning horizon. Okay, Red Tomato, it is 6 months and 1 month respectively in case of Red Tomato. So in this case, Red Tomato has decided that their planning horizon will be for 6 months. Okay, and the duration within the 6 months, it will be 1 month. Okay, you just think that suppose you have got a contractual job for 1 year and they will pay you monthly. So what will be the form? They will pay you monthly and it will happen for 12 months because you have been hired for 1 year. So the same thing is here, that you need to do the aggregate planning for a total of 6 months, and it will be done or it will be conducted on a monthly basis. Okay, this is the aggregate plan. This is their aggregate planning, and it is usually the aggregate planning, it is usually an intermediate planning, intermediate capacity planning, which ranges from 3 months to 18 months. Okay, so how you will formulate your strategy, that you should think. And in this case, usually you can ask that why in these cases, in a case of aggregate planning, we try to maximize our profit or minimize our cost, because our ultimate, our objective function, when you will do this kind of mathematical formulation, objective function is always based on what your ultimate desire or goal. Okay, see, the workforce, optimum amount of workforce, that is also a desire, but your ultimate aim or ultimate goal is to reduce the amount of total cost. Okay, so that's why your ultimate goal is actually expressed in terms of uh, objective function. Okay, so you will be doing these sort of things. So first you have fixed the timeline. You have already fixed the timeline for this case. Now, what is the second step? The second step is determine demands for all the products based on a collaborative forecasting, because we are in case of a supply chain, taking into account the changing behavior of the customers. Okay, so when you will be here also, they have the Red Tomato tools, they have made the demand for the 6 families. Okay, individually they have made the demands for the 6 families. Suppose the families are A, B, C, D, E and F. So they have made the demand, they have forecasted the demand for A, they have forecasted the demand for B, C, D, E and F respectively. Okay, taking in, they have forecasted this demand including all the stakeholders. Okay, that means all the stakeholders, they have also participated to forecast or in the method of forecasting, and they have also taken into account the actual behavioral pattern, because previously I told you that forecasting, it is not only based on the amount, the kind of consumption or the kind of demand that you have faced earlier, because technological changes or some other kind of societal changes, that also may bring some uh, uh, changes of in the behavioral pattern of the customers. Suppose, for example, where if you want to forecast the number of hard disks, okay, you need to think about the technology, you need to consider also the technological changes, because nowadays, in order to increase the speed of the laptop or computer, people are more prone towards purchasing the SSD based laptop or computers rather than uh, the hard disk based laptops or computers. So the previous, if you only follow the previous years, it will not give you a clear, it may not give you the clear cut idea about the present or the future. Okay, now the third thing is that information about current production, for example, material cost per unit, revenue per unit, setup time per batch, average batch size, percentage share of units sold, etc. So the information about the current production, it is there. The third point, it is already given here. The information about the current production. Suppose the material cost for A unit, B unit, for C family, D family, E family, F family, inventory holding cost, all these things, these information are provided. Okay. Now the fourth point is identify aggregate units of production like material cost per aggregate unit, revenue per aggregate unit, production time per aggregate unit, aggregate demand, etc. Okay. So what is aggregate unit? It is saying that aggregate unit means you are creating a hypothetical unit of production, or you are hypothetical unit of not production, hypothetical unit of product taking into account all the families or products, but as per their weightage. Weightage means, example, the percentage of sales contribution. Okay. So in case of aggregate unit means you are creating a hypothetical product. Okay. Suppose here you can see this is required because the mathematical formulation of aggregate planning requires this information in aggregate value to express the equations. Okay. So here what happens, I'm telling you, you can see here that the material cost, it was if you see the information that those are provided, you will see that in case of some informations they are dissimilar in nature, and the some information they are similar in nature. Okay. You just think about the inventory holding cost. Okay. Inventory holding cost is $2 per unit per month. So it is for all the products, it is the same, be it suppose A category of item or A category family, B category family, C category family, whatever it is, the inventory holding cost will remain the same. Okay. But the material cost for making the A item or B item, C item, those will actually vary. For A item it is $7, for B item it is $9 per unit, for C item it is $12 per unit. Okay. For D item it is different, for E, F it is all that different. So if you, when you will be dealing with the mathematical formulation for optimization purpose, if you consider the material cost in such a way, you will not be able to do the mathematical formulation. Okay. So what you need to do, that's why you need to make it a single number. The material cost, or it is kind of average material cost per unit. Okay. Or it is not said technically, it is not termed as average material cost, it is termed as aggregate material cost per unit, and it is basically done based on the percentage of their percentage of weightage or percentage of contribution. Okay. Just take a look at this thing, the idea will be clear. Okay. Here in this particular table, if you see that the percentage share of units sold, 10, 25, 10 for all the families, those are given here. Okay. These are given. Now if you notice that the net production time per unit, okay, it is the percentage share of units sold, these are given. Material cost per unit, it is also given. The revenue per unit, this column, it is also given. Now setup time per batch, average batch size, production time per unit, it is, these things are given, but I have made the cross marks. Okay. Here, why? Because net production, you will be given either this information you will be provided, or you will be provided directly, you will be providing the information of net production per unit. Okay. Because net production per unit, it is actually calculated depending upon these informations. You can see that 5.76 hours, it is how it is they are calculating. They are calculating by 8 divided by 50. Okay. Plus 5.6, because this is the net production time per unit. What is net production time or unit? Net production time will include the setup time plus the manufacturing time. So setup time, it is provided 5.6, they have added 5.6, and there are 50 average batch size. That means each batch consists of 50 items, and setup time per batch, it is 8 hours. Okay, so you can understand that setup time per batch means 50 products. Okay, so for 50 products you need a setup time of 8. Okay, so for one product you need a setup time of, the average setup time will be 8 divided by 50. This is the average setup, sorry, this is the average manufacturing time. Okay, for 50 this is the, sorry, this is the average setup time. So this average setup time plus the production time per unit, this is not setup time, this is actually production time per unit. Okay, so this is production time per unit, and 8 by 50, this is the setup time per unit. Okay, so if you add these things, you will be getting 5.76 value. So these things, if are provided in the question, and either you will be given these things provided in the question, you need to calculate these things, or you directly will be given this net production time per unit in the question. So both are same, and similarly you will have to also calculate this time for all the other families. Okay, now how the material cost, the aggregate material cost will be calculated, you can see that the percentage share of units sold, this is actually the weightage. Okay, weightage of the families in terms of sale. Okay, so 15 into 0.1 plus 7 into 0.25 plus 9 into 0.2, in this way this is $10, which is the material, aggregate material cost per unit, this is $10. Okay, similarly if you do that aggregate revenue unit based on the percentage share of units sold, you need to do the multiplication, 54 into 0.1 plus 30 into 0.25, like that you will be calculating the revenue per unit. Similarly, for the net production time, aggregate net production time per unit, this you can also calculate here. Okay, now the similarly you can also calculate the aggregate demand. These terms are actually the aggregate demand. I have previously told you that the demands you will be provided. Okay, the demands for the separate items you will be provided. So based on, if you take this value percentage share, you can also calculate the demand forecasts, and suppose this aggregate demand forecast, it is given. Okay, then we will move on to the fifth step. So what is the fifth stage? Let's take a look at. The fifth stage is select the decision variables. Example, workforce size for each month, number of employees hired at the beginning of each month, number of employees laid off, that means fired at the beginning of each month, number of units produced in each month, inventory at the end of each month, number of units stocked out or backlogged at the end of each month, number of units subcontracted for each month, number of overtime hours worked in each month. So these are the typical decision variables that you need to consider. Okay, so these are the given decision, these are the decision variables. Now why we are doing this kind of information optimization? Because I have given you previously the example of that if we do not choose the optimum value, that what could happen in case of arranging a food party. I have given previously that example. Now in this case, suppose the workforce size is given. Okay, now if you want to suppose if the optimum value for the workforce size is 40. Now if you want to make the workforce size as 39, it may happen the number of units of subcontracted that may become very high, and it will ultimately increase too much the total cost, which is your objective function. It may happen here. Our intention is, our objective function is that to minimize the total cost. Okay, or suppose if you think that if you suppose workforce size you increase your workforce size to 41, okay, it may happen that the number of subcontracted unit that you cannot uh, reduce too much because of some other constraints, okay, it because of meeting some other constraints, okay, it may happen, okay. So that's why the optimum value it is required. I can give you one very good example here in this case. This is an example. You can see that this is an optimization problem where your objective function is maximizing the profit 300 x1 plus 500 x2. Okay, subject to the following constants: x1 plus 5x2 less than or equal to 4000, x1 plus x2 is less than or equal to 1200, and x1 and x2 is not greater than or equal to 0, which is non-negativity constants. So this is the constant of the molding capacity, and this is the constant of soldering capacity. X1 is number of small TV products produced per year, and x2 is equal to number of big TV products produced per year. And you want profit of $300 for each small TV and $500 for each large TV. Okay. Then how many small TV items and how many big TV items you will produce? Okay. And the objective functions is given and subject to the following the constants. Those are also given here. Okay. So this is actually how the one, you can see the 1, 5, 1, 1, these are the coefficients. These coefficients actually represent that how much hour it is required for processing of 1 unit of small TV and 1 unit of large TV or big TV respectively. Okay, because when you will produce the small TV, it should pass through the molding department, because you need some molding processing, and you should do some soldering. This is also an operation. So that also you need the small TV needs to pass through these two departments, and the large TV or big TV that also needs to pass through this department. And one small TV, it spends suppose 1 hour in molding department and 1 hour in soldering department, and one big TV set it spends 5 hours in molding department and 1 hour in soldering department. Okay, so what if you solve this problem, then what will happen? Suppose you will find these decision variables x1 and x2 will come out to be 500 and 700, which is your the optimum value. Okay, 500 and 700, this is your optimum value. Okay, now you think, suppose since $500 you selling a large TV, you earn more, or your profit gain is more. So suppose instead of 700 products, suppose if you try to produce 701 products, then what will happen? Then your x1 will be 495. Okay, so you can see that as compared to 500, your product will 500, it is lesser. Okay, it is lesser. Okay, 500, it is lesser. So it is 500, it is lesser. You can see that it is 5 units lesser than 495. Okay, so for gaining 1 unit of increasing 1 unit of big TV, you will have a profit of $500. But since you will produce 5 less units of small TV, so you will lose $1,500. So ultimately, you will have a loss. Your net effect is loss than the optimum value. Okay. So similarly, suppose if you want to reduce, suppose x2, if you want to reduce, okay, then you in order to meet all the constraints, if you make x2 is equal to 699, your x1 will come out to be 501. Okay, because you need to also meet this constraint. Okay, just satisfying this constraint will not enough. Okay, so your value will be x1 will be 501. So in this case, in case of x2, you are losing minus 500 rupees, since you are producing one less big TV set. But in case of small TV set, you are only able to increase 501. Sorry, 1 unit you are only able to increase, which will give you only a profit of $300. So your loss will be more. You will incur a net loss. Okay. So this is the real scenario, that why we need to have the optimum value only. We should compare the optimum value, because we need to satisfy, because if we, in gist or in summary, if you change the optimum value, then what will happen? Other decision variable will be changed in such a way to meet the other constraints, that your total cost or total profit, total cost, it will be either it will be increased when you are trying to minimize the cost, or in case of maximizing profit, your profit will become reduced when you are trying to maximize the profit. It will happen. Okay. Now the sixth step, it is the objective function. Just have a look at the sixth step. Construct objective function. Example, minimizing total cost or maximizing profit, etc., which is equal to summation of all the cost components in case of minimizing total cost. So here you can see that the total cost incurred during the planning horizon is the sum of all the aforementioned costs. You can see the book of Sunil Chopra there. All the cost components are described. Okay, I'm not showing that here, but all these cost components, you can see these are added to find out the total cost, which is your objective function, and you need to minimize the total objective function. And you can see here that this 10 represents material cost per aggregate unit that we have found here earlier. That 10, it is representing the material cost per unit, and PT, it is actually, it is your PT, it is your number of units produced in month. Okay, PT is number of units that is produced in month. Okay, so this is your material cost per aggregate unit. Okay, so for one aggregate unit, your cost is 10. So for PT aggregate unit, quantity of materials produced, what will be your material cost? That will be 10 PT. Okay, so that you are calculating, and here it is summation of T is equal to 1 to 6. Okay, summation of T is equal to 1 to 6. Okay, because you are considering here, I have previously told that for every summation, you can see that T is equal to written as 1 to 6. What does it mean? 1 to 6 means you need to consider T is equal to 1 plus T is T plus T2 plus T3 plus T4 plus T5 plus T6. Okay, here suppose it will be 10P1 plus 10P2 plus 10P3 plus 10P4 plus 10P5 plus 10P6. Okay, so P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, P6, all these components, these terminologies, they represents the quantity of material produced for first month, second month, third month, fourth month, like that. Okay, so this is your objective function. Now, what the seventh step? Seventh step, you can see that construct the constraints, capacity constraints, overtime constraints, workforce or hiring, layoff constant, etc. So if you go through the book of Sunil Chopra, here these constants are provided, these constants are given here. Okay, like workforce hiring and area of constants, capacity constants, and a lot of other constants are there. If you go through the book of Sunil Chopra, you will find all those constants. Okay, so this is the seventh part. Okay, now the eighth part. What is eighth? Using LPP, find out the solution. It means total cost and all the decision variables, that is the value of all the decision variables, and make a table for that for each period. So this is the eighth. This is the eighth part. This is your actually solution for the decision variables. You can see for each period, these are all the decision variables. So for each period, what will be the value of this decision variables, optimum value of the decision variables, that you have found from your mathematical formulation, which you have solved through LPP, and you have also found out the total cost over planning horizon, which has come out to be 4,22,660 $. Okay, now you will see that how to perform this thing. This is actually beyond the discussion of this course, because this comes under the course of supply chain analytics, okay, or operations analytics course. Because in that case, you will find also in the book of Sunil Chopra that how in the Excel you need to put the data, and how you need to solve it out using the solver parameter dialog box, how you can solve all these things, that is clearly mentioned. So if you are interested to do that, to go through the analytical part, then you can follow the book of Sunil Chopra, that how the optimization problem has been solved. Okay. Now, what will happen? The ninth stage is, you can see that the ninth stage is disaggregate it into MPS or master production schedule. Okay, so this is the ninth part, disaggregate the master production schedule. Okay, so how to disaggregate? First, take a look at the production quantity that you will have to produce for each family members in each period. This table is provided for period 1, but in this aggregate planning, we have already stated that this aggregate planning is for 6 months. So you will have such kind of table for period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, period 5, and period 6. Okay, and for all these A, B, C, D, E, F, these families will be there. So 6 into 6, 36 rows. You will have 36 rows. Similar, this kind of 36 rows you will have for the disaggregation. Okay, but now here we will discuss only the period 1. Okay, now the question is that why this disaggregation is required? Because from when you have solved your mathematical formulation, if you can see your mathematical formulation here, what has happened? That the total production, which is one of your decision variables, that you have found 2560 for the first period. Okay, but how can you understand that which 2560 is the gross amount? But how can you know that which particular product how many which items A item I need to produce, or how many B items I need to produce among this 2560 for each and every period? Okay, because this is a gross product, you do not have the breakup or the rubrics. So that breakup is given here: 256,64051 to 256,512 and 384. All these breakups are given here. How this breakup has been given? How the breakup has been given? See, I will describe for only one row or the part family A, but you will, the calculation is same for B, C, D, E, and F. Okay, so just think about it. that how the 256 is calculated. It is calculated by total production divided by percentage share of units sold. Okay, because the production, that entire production quantity will be disaggregated as per the weightage that we have described earlier in terms of percentage sale. You can see that in point 4, the percentage sale, it is for A family it is 10, for B family it is 25. So for A family, you will be dividing it, the 2560 or the total production for in point 8, which we have seen, that you will divide with 10. Okay. In case of B family, you will divide it 2560, you will divide it by 25. Okay, and you will be getting these values, the near about these values you will be getting. So this will come out to be 256. Now you consider the average batch size. These average batch size are already given. You know about this average batch size. Okay. Now the third thing is you will have to find out the number of setups. Okay. How you will find the number of setups? If you divide it 256 by divided by 50, then you will find the number of setup, because your total production quantity for A family is 256 and the average batch size is 50. So how many batches you required? 5 batches you required. So for 5 batches, there will be 5 setups. So it will come out to be 5. Okay. Now in the fourth case, you can see that fourth step, the setup time per batch or hour, that is also given. So for each batch, it is taking 5 hours of time. So for each batch, it is taking 8 hours of time. So for 5 batches, it will take ultimately 40 hours of time. So in this way, the setup times are also determined. Okay. Then the next stage, production time per unit hour, that is given. The production time per unit hour is given. Okay. So how to calculate the total production time? The total production time, we know that it is the manufacturing time plus the setup time. So sorry, that production time, how to calculate the production time? Production time is the 5.6 into 0.3. 5.6, the production time per unit, and how many items you need to, there are how many items you need to produce, 256 items you need to produce, and each unit take 5.6 hours of time. So for 256 units, it will be 1433.6 hours of production time it will be taking. It is purely the manufacturing time. It does not include the setup time. Okay. So if you add all the setup time, you will come out to be 209. And if you add all this production times hours, this is 10,022.4. This production time you will be getting. So ultimately, this setup time plus production time, you will be having 10,231.4. This hour you require to produce all that item. A total of this amount of hour you will require to produce all that items. Okay. Now you should check whether for period 1 or whether for the first month, whether that amount of production it is feasible or not, whether that much of hour it is available or not, because you are doing the disaggregation here. Okay, so you, whenever you are doing the disaggregation, you need to justify it, that whether it is feasible. You need to check. You have already, for the mathematical formulation that you have done, that is basically for aggregation based. Aggregation means it is feasible, but when you are disaggregating, then it is feasible or not, that also you should check out. Okay, now you can see that it is less than the 10,240. So the for the first month you require, you have already 10,240 hours available. So it requires the whole aggregate planning. It requires only 10,231.4 hours, which is less than 10,240. So this plan is feasible. This is actually the 8th part of 10th part of the aggregate planning, that feasibility check at disaggregate level. Okay, now you can understand, now you can ask that how you have got this 10,240. This is the case we have found here. Okay, you can see that in point 8, the 64 is given. You 64, it is the given the 64 people plant, the available production time in the period is 64 into 160. The 64 people you have found from your the mathematical formulation, the optimum value here. You have found the 64, which is the mathematical, which is the product, or which is the result of your optimum mathematical optimization after you have got this table. And for the first period, you require the workforce of 64. So you, for the first period, you have a workforce of 64. 64 people will work. Okay, and each person, they can work in a month, they can work for 160 hours. Why? Because in each day, each person, they can work for 8 hours, and in a month there are 20 working days available. Okay, so ultimately you will have a 160 hour for each person. So for 64%, you will have 64 into 160, so 10,240 hours you will total you will have. Okay, so in this way you can carry out your aggregate production planning, but this is a very simple idea. There are also other methods of the aggregate production planning. Lot of researchers, they have suggested different techniques for aggregate production planning. This is just a simple idea, and also it has got some other advantages. That's why we have used this method. It is written in the book of Sunil Chopra that why this method, the kind of advantages that this method have. Okay, you can check out the books, but this is very simple method. Okay, so thank you all. Thanks for attending the class. Thank you.